Hi there and welcome to Hyundai Power Products. My name is Adrian and today we're going to be looking at this Hyundai HYM530SPE lawnmower, and in particular we're going to be looking at changing the control cables. So one of the biggest problems with control cables is that the handles haven't been put together properly in the first place. Now this is the correct way with the cables passing over the top of this intermediate bar here. If they're passed underneath, I shall demonstrate. When the handles are folded for stowage, so I'll just release the two quick release couplings. If the cable's passing underneath this bar, as you can imagine, it would put extreme loading on these cables around the bottom of the bar here, and that would cause the damage. So that's the most common cause of damage. So let me just adjust this handle slightly, put them back in. And of course, if you have got them the right way, the other problem is that when doing up the quick release fastening, you trap the cables in here, and that can also cause damage. So just be aware of that whenever you're folding the lawnmower's handles. Okay, so we're going to look at removing both cables and replacing them. So for the top end of the cables, the tools we'll need is a 10mm spanner and a crosshead screwdriver. So I'm going to start by removing the 4 screws that hold the control panel in place. I have removed the battery from the control panel. That's 2 of them. Just pull these 2 out quickly. So that's the 4 screws removed that hold the control panel on. So the control panel won't pull away because this cable passes through the small slot in the control panel. So if I just pull the handle out of its location, I can disconnect the cable. I'll just put the handle back in, and I can then pass this control cable through the hole and remove the control panel out of the way. So again, I'm going to disconnect the dog leg from the end of this lower cable, the drive cable, out. So I'll disconnect the handle, gives me plenty of slack. I can remove that dog leg, and I'll just spring that rear handle back into place. So that's the 2 cables disconnected from the handles. So final little job to release the pair of cables from the handle is to undo this little plastic bracket here. There's a nut that takes a 10mm spanner on the back. I can remove the nut, remove the bolt, and that's the pair of cables removed. So on this particular mower, it's what we call a cable coupling. So both cables, if one or other is damaged, you will need to replace both cables as one, as it's a coupled cable assembly. So that's the top end removed. So I'll just remove the little clip here that locates that cables in the center of the handle here. So that's the cables free to that point. So moving on, this point here is where the OPC, or operator present control cable, the front cable of the handles, finishes up. So I need to undo these 2 nuts. I'll just undo the rear one. Spin that back out of the way. And then I'll undo the front nut completely off the end of the cable. Okay, so once the nut completely removed off the end, you'll find the cable will come away from the slot. I'll just put that nut back on temporarily. And again, up inside, I'll see if I can give you a shot of that. In much the same way, there's a little dog leg. I can just push it down and pop it out from the hole, remembering that it goes up from the underside of this bracket here. Okay, so that's the OPC cable removed. So to remove the drive cable from the gearbox, I'm going to need to turn the lawnmower up onto its side. I've run it out of fuel and I've drained the oil from this machine. Now, obviously, if you're going to tip it on its side, I recommend that you remove all the fuel and all the oil from the machine. We do have separate videos showing this. Okay, so that said, when I tip it up, it's always best to tip it up with the air filter pointing upright and because I'm going to have access to the underside of the mower with the blade, I've removed the spark plug cap for safety. So that said, I can tip it up onto its side. So there we are. That now gives me access to the gearbox of the lawnmower. I don't know whether you can quite make it out, but the end of the cable itself has a little dog leg, the same as we've seen on all the other terminations of the cables. Because I'm undone from the handle, I've got plenty of free cable, as you can see. So I can loosen off that free cable and just pull the cable out from the dog leg. So that's the first part of the cable removal. Now it is possible to remove the cable outer retaining clip, which is tucked right in behind here, without stripping down much further than this. But it would almost be impossible for me to show you what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do, and I'd probably recommend you do it as well, especially if it's the first time you've ever changed a cable, is we're going to need to remove, let me just bring you out, so we're going to need to remove the blade and the belt cover and the belt. Now I do have a separate video that explains removing the blade, the belt cover, the belt, refitting it all of that procedure, which I'd probably recommend you look at as well. So I'm going to remove all this, and then I can get to a point where I can show you what I'm doing. So I've removed the blade, all the belt, everything else, and now I'm at a point where this gearbox will rotate in this direction, and you can see the spring is coming out of its locator there. So the next thing I need to do is remove this little bolt here. So there's a little metal strap that this bolt is holding on. That metal strap, let me just loosen the bolt off. There we go. That metal strap is just holding the cable out of the way of the spring. So I'll just undo that bolt. There we are. And that little strap will just fall away. So I can rotate the gearbox now, right round to this position here, and it gives us an easy access to the little retainer for the cable. So this gives me access to this little barbed clip here. So if I take a long nose pliers and just squeeze the two barbs in, that's it, and give it a push. Not quite. So this is the part that you wouldn't have been able to see. There we are, that's on its way through the hole, and that's released. So now I can come through the belt hole and just pull the cable right back through and out from the gearbox. So here's the little metal bracket. I can just unclip that from the wire. And the purpose of this is to keep the control cable away from the spring. And then finally, I can slide the cable back up through the hole in the deck to remove the cable completely. So here we are. That's the cable assembly, or control cable assembly, the coupling, completely removed. Obviously, as these cables are perfectly fine and not damaged, I can refit these cables. So, it's the reverse procedure, but I will actually take you through it. So obviously, the cable with the plastic barbed coupling is the one that goes on the gearbox, and obviously the one with the threads is the OPC cable. So we need to thread the cable back down through the top of the lawnmower, back out through the hole. There we are, to the underside of the deck, and I'll just refit the little wire clip or cable retainer. There we are. Okay, back on the end of there, so I can feed the entire cable back through, pass the wire through the slit in the outcrop, and back in with a little push with a little retainer. Now at this point I can actually put the tail of the cable back into the gearbox as well, because it's very easy to get at when you're in this orientation. Okay, so that's the cable refastened at this end. We just need to swivel it round now and put the bracket back on. Okay, so I'll just swivel it round now and get the little screw back in that holds the little cable retainer back into position. You can see it here. Eight mil socket. You just push that upright, there we go. That's close, there we are. So that's that tight. So, as you would have seen in the previous video, back in with the spring, and I can now refit my belt. But as I said earlier, have a look at the previous video that shows the drive system analysis, and it's quite simple to follow. So that's my belt back on and the cable replaced. So I'm going to refit my guard now, and back on with my drive gear, back on with the blade, and that's the underside side of the mower finished. So with everything back in place, I can stand the mower back up onto its four wheels. There we go. And we're done with the underside of the mower. So at this point, I'm going to reattach the OPC cable. So, as we said earlier, up from the underside, up through the hole in the bracket. Just get my finger in there to get it started. So the little dog leg, back into the hole, put the nut this side of the bracket, feed the bar through, put the nut back on. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that loose for the time being, and we're going to go back to the handlebar end. So we're going to refasten the top half now with the curved base on the inside of the bar, up here. The bolt through from the outside, and then put the nut back on. And again, I'll just hold the screw, and I'll tighten the nut back up again. There we go. You will take note that I am again on top of the crossbar. So at this point, I'm going to leave the front cable unattached, and I'm going to connect the rear cable, or the drive cable, back into the bar. Again, I've released it back in and put the bar back in position. Okay, so back on with the control panel now. So when refitting the control panel, we need this cable, the OPC cable, to come through this small opening here. So I'll just pass the cable through that opening, and then I can place the control panel back in its approximate position. Okay, so that cable is now coming out through the correct slot. So back in with the 4 screws now that hold the control panel on. Those 2 just loosely in there. Missed the hole, I think. If you miss the hole, you can just lift the cover up and just check your alignment. So just do them all in loosely to start with. Once you've got them all started, you can tighten up the 4 screws. And there we are. That's the control panel back on. And another little job, reconnect this cable. So same method, unhook it from the handlebars, in with the cable, and back in to the handles. Okay, now you can see here we've got a lot of free play in the handle here, so we need to adjust this OPC cable. So back down to the engine end. So to adjust this cable, make sure that the front one is backed well off. Just pull on the outer sheathing backwards till you feel resistance, then do up the rear nut, and then do up the front nut. I can just hold this one and lock the two together. So I've got very little play there. Let's go back to the handlebars. As you can see, there's no free play in here now. It's just a little bit of flex in this cable. That's the OPC lever working correctly. And if I bring you back down to the engine, you should be able to hear the micro switch clicking that the OPC operates. So yeah, as I pull the OPC, we can hear the click. So final little piece of tidying up. I'll just place the two cables back in the clip. Okay, and close the clip, bring it down here. That's the two cables replaced. I put a link to the video of removing the guard, the belt and the blade in the description below. Well, I do hope you found this demonstration useful. For more information on this or any of our other products, visit www.hyundaipowerproducts.co.uk. I've been Adrian, and thank you for watching.